What if a spy movie didn't feel like a spy movie at all? No gadgets, no tuxedos, no glamorous villains, just fear, uncertainty, and missions that feel way too real. Today, we're diving into Cloak and Dagger, a 1946 spy movie that might be one of the most grounded and overlooked entries in the entire genre. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
Welcome back to Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Today, we don our spy gear, our cloak and dagger, and dig deep into this classic. While this is not a Hitchcock movie, it feels very Hitchcockian in story and tone.
Oh, and cinematography.
Yeah.
So here's the quick synopsis of this. This black and white movie follows a physics professor, Alva Jesper, in the United States, who's recruited for a special mission by the United States government during World War II. He must go to Switzerland to meet another scientist, a Hungarian, who supposedly has been told she's going to be helping the Germans develop a nuclear weapon. Her name is Katrin Loder, and she's played beautifully by Helene Thiemig.
Yes.
Now, we wish she had more screen time because she was one of the highlights of this.
Fantastic. She was.
She gives Jesper a clue that the Germans told her she has to work with another scientist from Italy, a guy with the last name of Polda. Mm-hmm. So, Jesper goes to Switzerland. Then he has to go off to find Polda, and Polda's played by Vladimir Sokolov, who's really good in this as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
and along the way, he finds a few helpers, resistance fighters, including the Italian underground resistance fighter, Gina, who's played by the beautiful Lily Palmer. Now, the interesting thing is in the titles, they say introducing Lily Palmer, but she'd done a bunch of movies before this. So I don't understand the introducing. Now maybe she just had
maybe as a lead role, maybe or something. But yeah, she was terrific, awesome.
We'll talk about that later. Now, in the meantime, there are double agents he's got to deal with, and there's a lot of spy activities as he winds his way into becoming a spy because he's not a spy; he's a nuclear physicist.
Yeah. Now, the story itself is inspired by the 1946 nonfiction book, Cloak and Dagger, The Secret Story of OSS, by Corey Ford and Alistair McBain. There are other movies out with the same name, but
I hate that.
We're talking about the 1946 version, and it's on YouTube as of this recording at no charge. So
in the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jesper's mission? He has to travel to Europe and gather intelligence on Nazi atomic research. So he must do what he can do to find out how far the Germans are in their development of a nuclear weapon. Because we just don't know. We just know they're working on one.
Right.
So we know about the Manhattan Project here in the U.S. The fear was that Germany was also working on a bomb. And if they developed it first, then the war could be over quickly and the Germans would win. So the race is on. And it was a serious race with a lot of stuff at stake and little time to lose, and Jesper had to help figure it out.
Yeah. Now, we've decoded other World War II spy movies like The Heroes of Telemark, where it was all about how to destroy Germany's supply of heavy water needed to make an atomic bomb. And hey, we have a spy movie here that starts off with a train scene. How good is that, huh? On the screen, it says, towards the end of the war, the mountain border of southern France. That's what we see on the screen. So now we've got the movie set in time. And then we see someone taking notes, watching the train. The pub scene that follows immediately I thought was very cool because, as you know, Tom, I love looking at the signs and the posters that they have on the walls in these movies.
Well, you can understand some of them.
Yeah, and here a couple of men are getting served coffee. I think they had some cocktail or drinks before that, too. And on the wall is a sign that reads, Bières la Muse. And Bières de la Muse is a French phrase meaning beers of the muse, which is rooted in an iconic 1897 Art Nouveau advertising poster that Alphonse Mucha designed for a brewery situated near the Meuse River in northern France. So this is a nice, authentic touch, and I love that kind of stuff. All right.
Well, you say that. I love the way some of these restaurants and bars commission these posters.
Yeah.
There's a bar in France that does a wine poster every year as well. And it's just really cool. They'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Here, the story is fictional, but the basis of the fear was real. And Cloak and Dagger starts out with a lot of mystery, which I think is cool because it does kind of grab you right in the beginning.
Well, and like that poster and like some of this other stuff, they really do a good job of bringing the realism in. So, like, there's a reference that gets made to the events behind the mission that was shown in The Heroes of Telemark.
Yes.
Now, that movie was an adaptation of real events. So for Cloak and Dagger, they dropped some of these references into real events to enhance its feel of reality. They talk about the Manhattan Project by name. They talk about the destruction of the heavy water facility in Norway. They want this to feel real with a scientific bent to it, which is really kind of cool the way they do that. The science of the heavy water, the science behind creating the atomic bomb. I'll talk a little bit later about some other science stuff we see, all add to the realism.
Yeah. We have here, hey, you're a great scientist. You want to become a spy?
That's pretty much what they're telling Jesper.
No training, just go. And it's a risky mission. If caught or discovered, he would be killed for sure. Now, he does speak German, which is good and comes in handy. Now, in real life, at least a few scientists, notably German-born Klaus Fuchs and American Theodore Hall, worked on the Manhattan Project and became spies for the Soviet Union, not the U.S., passing critical atomic secrets to them during and after World War II.
Okay, so they were passing to the Soviet Union, not to the Germans.
Right.
Because the Soviet Union was on the Allied side at that point.
At that point, but still.
Yeah, it's still, you've got these spies that happen there. Now, the key point for this movie is that this is a situation that seems very familiar to us. If we'd watched any of the 5 spy movies Hitchcock already directed at this point, The 39 Steps, Secret Agents, Sabotage, Lady Vanishes, Foreign Correspondent, Saboteur, and he was working on Notorious as Cloak and Dagger was being developed. So what's so familiar here? We have yet another civilian thrown into espionage. In this case, he's Professor Alva Jesper. They sometimes call him Al. And he's played by Gary Cooper. Cooper was a fabulous actor, and he was in tons of movies. He won 2 Oscars for Best Actor in a Leading Role, one for Sergeant York in 1942, and one for High Noon in 1953. So we definitely have an A-list actor here.
Yeah, no doubt.
So he's a really good actor, but when we did our decoding session on the movie Saboteur, we mentioned that Hitchcock wanted Gary Cooper to play the role of Barry Kane. I said I couldn't see Cooper as Barry Kane. He's an extremely talented actor, but after seeing him in this movie, I do think Hitchcock was wrong. I think Robert Cummings' performance was to play Barry like someone who's a deer caught in the headlights.
Yeah.
That worked for that role. I don't see Cooper in this one, and he plays this, I'm a civilian being cast as a spy, very differently than what we saw in Saboteur.
Yeah, and I thought he did a good job balancing this civilian concept and now, hey, I'm thrown into the spy world, which is a serious deal. All right, we're going to talk about the cast in just a little bit.
So let's mention the director. It's not Alfred Hitchcock. We talked about this kind of being Hitchcockian, but this time we get Fritz Lang.
Yeah, Fritz Lang is good. And this Cloak and Dagger feels a little like Saboteur from 1942 or The Lady Vanishes, which came out in 1938. So in that sense, no experience, no gadgets, no safety net. You're basically an amateur spy in a spy world. And that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because mistakes,
especially with atomic bombs at the core of it. Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here you have mistakes that feel real and consequences feel immediate and potentially life-threatening. So that's the situation we're in, and they do a good job of creating that tension.
Oh, they do.
Pretty quickly in the movie.
Yeah, that tension is definitely there. Now, also, we have to remember, Lang directed one of the first spy movies in 1929. The silent movie Spion or Spies. That movie, we have an episode on that one. It is a very, very different telling of a spy movie than Cloak and Dagger. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So you see the breadth of what Lang can do in directing, hey, I'm doing a spy movie. Very, very different feels.
Yeah, Lang was a great director. He was tough in this movie on some of the actors, I think.
Yeah.
Was the backstory. We'll talk about that. So here you have a scientist who's ill-prepared for this. Bond walks into danger like, hey, I've got this. This guy, Jesper, walks into danger like, I definitely don't have this. But I have to say, for a scientist, he gets pretty down and dirty and pretty fast, too. I thought, well, that's a heck of a transition.
Yeah, that was one of my complaints about this movie is he goes from I'm a scientist. And he isn't the Barry Kane type of guy, or even the Jimmy Stewart kind of every guy just thrown into this stuff. He comes in and boom, he's hitting the ground running. He's getting in fights. Yeah. He's very direct and, hey, I know what I'm doing. I don't see enough of the I definitely don't have this out of him. And that's not him. I think that's the direction.
Yeah, he's going all over the world. He's got guns. He's got this. He's got to deal with all these real life situations and spying and intense situations. And he's pretty cool, pretty fast.
Yeah, very fast. Right. Now,
yeah.
I do like that this movie focuses on the realism of the moment and not on glamour. Yeah, there's a little bit of romance going on. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what's missing in this movie. There are no flashy gadgets except for a very cool pen-light camera. There are no over-the-top villains, no exotic fantasy tones. There's no tuxedos and fancy parties. It is more or less an ill-prepared spy or an inexperienced spy, because he wasn't a spy.
Yeah, that's a better word, inexperienced, yeah.
He's trying to make it right, and he's in very dangerous situations. He's on the run from danger quite a bit, and he has to adapt on the fly.
Yeah, so instead of all that glamour stuff and everything, we get dark streets, quiet and frequent tension, constant paranoia, never knowing what will happen next. Comfort slips into discomfort, safety to danger constantly in the movie. And I must say, they played that off pretty well.
Oh, they did. And they also did a good job showing that Jesper was a nuclear scientist. They didn't hit us over the head with it, but it was there. There's a short scene where he writes some formulas on a wall. And these are real physics formulas with nuclear physics notation there. But they aren't a hidden message. They're not a secret formula. No. They're just there to provide authenticity to Jesper's background. Now, we look at it, not being nuclear scientists, Dan, I don't think...
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, you couldn't figure out. Well, but those were real formulas. It wasn't one big formula. Those were just a bunch of real formulas to kind of add the authenticity.
Yeah, and I like the focus on the authenticity of this whole movie, because we know a real-world example from World War II. We've all heard of Moe Berg, like in The Catcher Was a Spy.
We should do that movie. We've got that's a movie.
Yeah, I like that movie a lot. Well, now, Moe Berg was indeed a professional baseball player who was highly educated, spoke many languages, and he had an understanding of nuclear physics.
As all baseball players do.
yeah, right. As a catcher, wow. Very much like Alva Jespers in this movie, a scientist, Moe Berg was sent to Switzerland to determine how close Nazi Germany was to building an atomic bomb, see if a breakthrough seemed imminent. So things like this did happen in real life in the war. So in Cloak and Dagger, I think they give us a closer glimpse as to probably what real espionage might have been like. And certainly a non-spy in a violent spy world doing work that might make the difference to the world. That's a big deal.
Well, it's a little less shaken, not stirred.
Yeah. And more terrified and hoping this works kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of hurdles that Jesper has to jump. He has to meet certain people at certain times. There are many spy activities going on, like dead drops, false identities, double agents, resistance fighters, secrets, and plenty of brutal danger.
Okay, so the brush pass. There's a brush pass that happens in this thing.
Yeah.
I watched that scene frame by frame. And
that's good.
It's well done, but there really wasn't a brush pass, but it looked good.
Yeah, it looked good. Come on. It did. All right. In fact, when he lands in Switzerland, he's walking from the plane, and a photographer, this is 1946, remember, a photographer tries to take his picture, and he blocks his face with his briefcase. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
16 years later in Dr. No, Bond basically does the exact same thing, except he uses his fedora to block his face when he lands in Jamaica. So,
funny how things from earlier movies show up in future movies.
Yeah, all right, they do. Now, there is one fight scene in this movie that was very raw and vicious and violent.
Oh, yeah, we've got to talk about that scene. It's a key moment in the movie. And let's just call it the staircase fight. When you watch the movie, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah. This isn't polished. It's messy. It's desperate. It's very physical and ferocious. It's, I think, one of the best scenes in this movie and probably in any spy movie. Anyway.
Well, what's cool about it is the audience member feels every hit. And there are lots of hits.
Yes.
There are guns, there's a switchblade, and this is all happening in the confined area of a staircase.
Yeah, fist fighting, everything. It's a tough one. Now, it reminded me of the scene in Quantum of Solace when Bond is in Haiti and he's in the fight and he kills Slate in the hotel room. Or even the staircase fight in Casino Royale.
Yeah,
too.
I think it's closer to that.
Yeah. But this one in Cloak and Dagger was done long before that and done to perfection. This may be the best footage in the entire movie, I think. It is that good. What is done with the body afterwards, Tom, too, I thought it was so perfect and classic and most Bond-like. It's really a highlight of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the early examples of realistic combat in a spy movie.
Yeah.
This put brutal in the books or on the screen.
Yeah.
There are no choreographed flips. It's just two people trying to survive. And I also like the fact that it's a short fight, but severe.
Yeah.
So it's over quickly, but you feel it.
Yeah, and you look at this scene, and I've looked at it 4 or 5 times, just the whole scene, because it's that good. You want to just keep replaying it, and you can, obviously. So every second of it looks exactly like that is what they are doing. There doesn't seem to be any faking going on here. No fake punches, no air punches, nothing. It's that good. And they say it looked very real because Gary Cooper actually did maybe all of it himself. And it was indeed rough. So that's how good the scene is. You'll watch it more than once.
Yeah. Now, we've mentioned the fact that reality is important to this movie because it brings out the fear that was there in the time.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, the atomic bomb. You can't get much more fearful than that. The U.S. was working on it. They think the Germans are working on it. The fear was not in the average American because nobody knew what was going on in the Manhattan Project.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The fear was internal with our government officials and our spy network. They know this stuff's going on, and they think it's going on with Germany, and they can't tell anybody about it. Now, the funny thing is that this movie was released in 1946. So before the war ended, the government didn't want the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, mentioned in the movies. They wanted it to be a Cloak and Dagger thing.
Yeah.
This was the predecessor to the CIA. But since this was 1946, released right after World War II ended, in the beginning, they do mention the OSS once, and they call us the Cloak and Dagger guys.
Yeah, that's what he
so
said.
This movie does a great job of transferring the fear to the viewer. It puts things in context. Nuclear weapons are new, they're terrifying, and we see those fears with nuclear weapons still today. It's a constant fear for every country in the world.
Yeah, and suddenly espionage isn't just about secrets. It's about survival for the world and about who will win World War II, the Allies or the Axis. Wow, this is the movie.
All right, so let's break down the casting a little bit more here. So we mentioned Gary Cooper, and that he was excellent as the scientist Jesper.
Mm-hmm.
He was solid in all the situations that he was thrown into, and for me, actually, a little too solid.
Yeah, well,
but
he got to be a pro pretty fast for a scientist. You know, you wouldn't think that. Yeah.
Well, you're saying scientist like it's derogatory. It's just that he's a civilian. He isn't trained.
Yeah, he's a civilian, but I mean, he's a scientist doing test tubes and stuff. You know, I mean, he's
well, but he's got to be pretty smart.
Yeah, he is smart.
Okay, so Gary Cooper, check, good job.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the female lead. She wasn't just a romantic interest. In fact, initially she isn't.
Right.
She was actively involved in the resistance, fighting, shooting weapons. She's risking her life minute by minute.
Yeah, she's part of the mission, not just along for the ride. She's not just a pretty face, though she was indeed all of that. That puts her ahead of a lot of later spy movie interpretations of a female lead, and really ahead of a lot of women characters in the 1930s and 1940s movies as well. So here it is Lily Palmer who plays the Italian Gina. Now, I thought she was pretty good. And did you know that Lily Palmer, she had lots of talents. She hosted the Lily Palmer Show in 1951 and co-hosted a talk show with Dick Cavett in 1979. I actually saw her interview Thornton Wilder, one of her favorite American authors, once, And you can find that on YouTube. She was very, very good.
Okay, so she didn't work for me in this movie.
Wow. No kidding.
She was fine. You can see that she probably influenced Samantha Steele in Funeral in Berlin, who was played by Eva Renzi. We've talked about that when we decoded that movie.
Uh-huh.
So you have a female resistance fighter, but I never bought into her as an Italian resistance fighter.
Okay. So you have a problem with the Italian part.
She didn't look the part.
You look Italian?
She didn't. You're right. She's supposed to be an Italian resistance fighter, and she didn't look the part. I'm thinking maybe Italian-born Alida Valli or Valentina Cortese, who were both very prominent female actors at that time.
Yeah.
Probably would have been better choices. Again, she wasn't terrible. I just thought she was miscast. Nothing. Yeah. Sorry, right? I'm not trying to say anything bad about her. I just think it was a bad casting choice.
Yeah, no, I thought her acting was terrific. I had no problem thinking, oh, you don't look that Italian or whatever. I mean, Italians, you go Northern Italy, Southern Italy, people look a little different and so on, Sicily. So I had no problem with that. And I thought she did a fine job acting. She looked good with a machine gun in her hand, I'll tell you that. I thought she was good.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. And she looked good in general. No, I thought she was good. There are a couple other cast members we need to call out here, too. I think Robert Alda played the character Pinky, who comes and goes throughout the movie. He does a pretty good job here. And the fun fact here is that two of his sons were actors. Now, of course, you know Alan Alda of MASH fame, but his other son, Anthony, also was an actor. He played an Italian waiter in the Columbo episode, which, of course, you love Columbo, Tom.
I love Columbo.
Murder Under Glass. Remember that one? Okay.
Absolutely. Louis Jourdan was the bad guy in that.
Yeah,
another James Bond reference.
I did like Columbo too, though. That was a great show. All
right. So another actor I want to highlight, who's someone James Bond fans may recognize. You might not. He plays the thug or security guy Luigi in Cloak and Dagger.
Oh yeah.
Now his first Bond movie was Diamonds Are Forever, which was 25 years after Cloak and Dagger. And that's why I say you may recognize him. We've talked about how gaps in actors' years, when you see them, make it hard to understand it's the same person. Mm. But in Diamonds, he also plays a thug. Yeah. In The Man with the Golden Gun, he plays Rodney.
Yeah.
I'm talking, of course, about the actor Mark Lawrence. And he has probably one of my all-time favorite lines in all of the James Bond canon when he says,
"I didn't know there was a pool down there,"
after throwing Plenty O'Toole off the balcony. I love that line. And that's Mark Lawrence. And he's got a pretty important role in this movie.
Okay, let's not forget Marjorie Hochschild.
Oh, how can you?
Yeah. She played Ann Dawson. Now, I thought those scenes with her were first rate. And the one when Jesper is relaying a lot of intelligence information to her, I thought that's a great winning scene.
Oh, that really was.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Her facial expressions, her body movements in that scene, terrific. Absolutely terrific.
Well, he's calling her out, and she's standing there having to deal with it. That was really good.
Yeah, I wish she was in more of the movie. I thought she played that role really well.
Oh, she really did. Okay, Dan, let's give some shout-outs to our listeners, the ones who give us feedback.
We're going to give a big shout-out to the following listeners who gave us feedback. This time on our Did James Bond Predict the Future episode, Bernard Abels, Morgan Lisney, and Pietro Rossi. And on our Goldfinger's Biggest Mistake, Why Didn't He Kill James Bond? We had some great reactions and comments from Carl C. Epler, Baldwin Collins, again, Pietro Rossi, and Jasmine Katoon. And our top 20 James Bond quotes and what they mean, big shout out to John Ross, and again, Pietro Rossi. And lastly, on our I Mean It from On Her Majesty's Secret Service episode, a big shout out to Jerry McDonald 5937. Thanks to all who listen and take the time to send us feedback. That helps us create more episodes that you'll like. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's shift gears to the cinematography.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in here I really liked.
Yes.
Overall, Sol Polito, the cinematographer, did a fine job here. There's not a lot of flashy camera work. Rather, it's intense and deliberate camera work.
That's a good way to put it.
We mentioned that fight scene, which was spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
In that scene, the fight is not over-stylized or choreographed. Rather, the cinematography makes you feel trapped inside this room, inside that staircase, inside the fight. It's very much like when Bond and Grant fight in From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
And I got to believe this fight might have influenced that.
Yeah.
And there's another scene I want to call out here with the cinematography. There's a scene in Polda's office that I thought was extremely well done. There's this huge picture of Benito Mussolini on the wall.
Yeah.
And the scene shifts to a shot from Mussolini's point of view, from above an Ober Jesper's shoulder, looking down on Polda, trying to influence Polda. Hitchcock would have absolutely loved that shot, I'm sure of it. Because
that was a great shot.
It really was Mussolini looking down on the conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of meaning in that shot. That was good. But now, you got to pay close attention to the lighting. I loved the lighting in this movie because in this movie, the lighting is used, I think, as psychology, really. You look at the heavy shadows and low lighting, borrowing from film noir. It creates tension through visuals. Again, a big thing Hitchcock does. Blending the wartime realism, which we've talked about, with that film noir kind of feel that creates this genuine, grounded sense of tension, and you feel it. The movie really leans heavily into this low-key lighting kind of situation. Deep shadows dominate the interiors. Faces are often partially obscured or partially lit, like someone looking through blinds from the interior of a house while their face is lit partially through the blinds from the outside. Those scenes I loved. I thought, man, the lighting was just fabulous there. And light sources feel natural. Lamps, windows, all that kind of stuff. I thought the lighting was absolutely stunning.
Oh, yeah. I think the lighting creates a constant sense of uncertainty and danger.
Yeah.
It effectively brings us, the viewer, into these scenes.
We're
never fully comfortable visually here. And that mirrors Jesper's situation at the same time. I thought this was really well done.
If you look at the lighting in this movie, this half in shadows, half in light concept, I think it highlights, and we've talked about this, the moral ambiguity that's involved in all spy movies, this whole moral gray area. And I thought the lighting actually brings that out in this movie. So there are some really nice set pieces here, like Gina's apartment, the hideout scenes outdoors, the shootout at the house, the street scenes, I think were excellent. The streets feel worn and damaged and lived in. They feel real, not like a Hollywood set kind of thing. And some of the street shots in Italy, I notice, again, I'm looking at signs and things like that. You know, I see these signs painted above the archways saying, Mussolini ha sempre ragione. It's like, what? Mussolini is always right. Wow.
I wrote that one down, too. I'm like, because I knew what it said. I'm like, that's good.
These kinds of touches, I think, are great to see in these movies. So kudos there. Yeah.
This cinematography helps create a sense of isolation. I mean, we get characters often framed alone in wide shots.
Yeah.
Doorways and windows and corridors trap them visually. And it all reinforces vulnerability.
Yeah, you see the isolation. I mean, the visual representations in this movie are meaningful and well done. I mean, you really do see the isolation, and you feel the isolation that they feel, and the fear, too. I must say that in many movies, you're aware of the camera, the flashy angles, the clever shots. Here, I had the feeling that I was watching the events unfold, and the camera movements really were more subtle and intentional. So I really enjoyed that in this movie. Between Fritz Lang and Sol Polito, I think the middle of the movie, where Jesper and Gina are in her apartment developing a relationship, and we see the development coming along, I think that section is a little long, and it slows the movie down a little bit. And there are some tension builders there, but it seemed to me long.
Wait, are you saying there's pacing issues in a spy movie?
Yeah, I guess we could call that a pacing issue.
All right. So Sol Polito was nominated for 3 Academy Awards for The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex, Sergeant York, which we mentioned Gary Cooper won the Best Actor for, and Captain of the Clouds. He's done other greats like Arsenic and Old Lace and The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah, it's got good stuff.
This guy was good. Now, that scene you mentioned, I'm going to come back to that in a few minutes. That's an important scene, and I'll explain why here when we talk about the music.
Oh, yeah. You got to talk about the music here. Sometimes music really helps make a movie special. Here, The score by Max Steiner really creates, at the moment, the feeling of calm or tension, one or the other. His score here does what I like to hear music do in movies: support the realism on the screen without dominating the scenes, which I think helps in the overall goal, quietly shaping emotion that we see on the screen and our own emotion as the viewer. So you see the emotions on the screen, and now we're feeling those emotions as well. And all of that is helped along by the music. The score reflects the internal stress that we're seeing on the screen and we're feeling, with uneasy string patterns in the music, subtle but deliberate shifts in tone as danger increases, but you feel it, not just hear it. And I love that. It mirrors doubt and it mirrors fear that we see and we feel. So it's really like we're almost hearing what the characters feel, if that makes sense. That's a genuine accomplishment, I think.
Yeah.
And there are moments of silence, too, used strategically. Now, remember The Spy Who Loved Me, when Bond skis off the cliff in the pre-title? When he's in the air, the music stops, and the silence is powerful. And we have a little of that here, too.
Yeah, I think the fight scene we've mentioned a couple times here is a great example of this.
Yeah.
During this staircase fight, the music is minimal or absent. It lets us focus on the physical sound of the fight, the breathing, the punches, the falling over the railing. It's the sounds of the fight.
Yeah. I think Max Steiner doesn't score Cloak and Dagger like other war movies have been scored. He scores it like, here's this man trying to stay alive and get done what he's supposed to get done. And while parts of the movie have more dramatic scoring, for sure, the fight scene, like we're talking about, is minimal. And we feel that fight scene because of the fight itself and the music. Very good. Max Steiner did some musical arrangements for some big movies like, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, and Arsenic and Old Lace.
What a slacker.
So, yeah. So he's been involved in some good movies.
Yeah, I would say so. Let's go back to that scene you thought was too slow in the pacing.
Yeah, okay.
In that scene, Gina starts to sing the song Fare Thee Well, Dink's song. Mm-hmm. It's an old American folk blues song from the early 1900s. She calls it an American cowboy song.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
But this scene, its importance is it shifts the movie and how Gina is shown. During this scene, she transforms. She becomes less guarded. We see her vulnerability. She becomes a real person, not just a resistance fighter.
Okay.
And also, this song is a goodbye song normally. It's about parting and loss. And it foreshadows that Gina's story won't necessarily end happily. To me, it's an extremely important part of the movie. You thought it was too long. I think it almost needed to be that to allow for this shift to happen.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like what you're saying there. I could see that. I still think it was a little long, but...
Okay. So...
All right.
Let's see how Cloak and Dagger sits in an interesting place in the world of spy movies. Mm-hmm. It bridges wartime espionage and Cold War spy movies. Remember, this is right after the war ended.
Yeah.
It definitely influences realism in later movies.
Yeah, and there's a Bondian connection here, too. Ian Fleming helped establish the U.S. Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, the precursor to the CIA. In 1941, he wrote a lengthy blueprint for a new U.S. intelligence service. Now, remember, Fleming at that time was in British Naval Intelligence, and he provided that information to General William Donovan, who was the first and only director of the OSS, and was appointed by Franklin D. Roosevelt. At one point in the movie, when they were in Switzerland, Jesper actually orders a drink at the bar. Do you remember what it was, Tom?
When he meets, what's his name? Fritz. Well, he meets Fritz at the bar.
And he orders?
He orders a martini, a dry martini.
A dry martini.
He doesn't say shaken or stirred. He just orders a dry martini.
Yeah, all right. There you go.
So we're talking about this style of how this movie came about. We actually see this style continue in movies like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and even the more grounded modern spy movies like Black Bag. Now, Back in 1946, it did pretty well at the box office. It proved that spy movies don't need to be a spectacle to work. It cost a whopping $2 million to produce.
That's a lot of money.
At that time, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Globally, it took in around $4.4 million. So about $2.5 million of that was coming from the U.S.
That's pretty dang good.
Which was considered a moderate performer for a U.S. movie. But it did bring in twice what it cost to make. So
yeah,
that's not bad. Now, you mentioned this earlier. There were lots of on-set tensions in filming this as well.
Yeah.
In part because of Fritz Lang.
Yes.
And he has a reputation of not being the nicest guy on the set. And I guess he really ripped into Lily Palmer. And,
yes.
I mean, so badly that 3 crews walked off the set, shutting down production for a few days. So, yeah, there may have been a problem here.
Hey, the crew stuck with her, though. That was good. All right.
Yeah.
And he figured it out. All right. Also, the ending was going to be completely different.
And now for something completely different.
No. It is already an anti-Nazi movie. And in many ways that comes out in this movie, it's a warning about nuclear power and weapons in the world. It's almost anti-nuke movie. But the ending that never was, because the producer squashed it, Fritz Lang wanted it to be an in-your-face anti-nuclear message for the end of the movie. He wanted Jesper's last lines to be, "This is the year 1 of the atomic age, and God help us that we can keep this secret from the world." Or, "God have mercy on us if we think we can wage other wars without destroying ourselves."
I can totally see him saying that.
Yeah.
And there are other little preachy things, if you'll let me call that preachy, throughout the movie.
Yeah, there are. But the producer, Milton Sperling, he removed it all.
Yeah, that's out.
Out. The studio wanted it to be more of a patriotic, not over-the-top patriotic, but a more patriotic spy thriller. And the strong anti-nuclear message was too much, he thought. There was plenty of that in the movie as it was. I mean, you remember the whole apple scene. Basically, he was saying the atoms from this apple, we could destroy an entire city, but with all of our science, we couldn't make an apple.
Yep.
I mean, there was a lot of that kind of stuff in there that was throughout the movie that was enough. And the producer probably said, that's plenty. So after World War II, there was a communist paranoia, of course, in the United States. And even for this movie in 1946, the screenplay was accused of containing communist subtext. We were crazy in the United States about this kind of stuff. So here you got the screenplay being accused of containing communist subtext, and the pessimistic anti-nuclear message was out of step, they thought. So the screenwriters, Ring Lardner Jr. and Albert Maltz, became part of the blacklisted Hollywood 10 members. Eesh.
And you got to figure that the scientists at that time would have been a little anti-nuclear because they see the potential.
Yeah. I mean, right. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in the United States with movies and looking for, even Casablanca, I think there were some issues that they had with that. It's like, can you get any more anti-Nazi than that? I don't know. But the actual ending, I think, of the movie is pretty emotional already. So
Yeah.
I think that was okay.
I agree with you. We didn't start this out asking if this is a spy movie because it is a spy movie.
Yeah, it's a spy movie.
But is it underrated and is it worthy of a watch?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's not the best spy movie, but it has plenty of positives. Enough to put this on your list of spy movies to watch. There's lots to like in this movie. There are some weaknesses in the acting, but nothing really serious enough to not watch. There are some character traits that seem a bit stretched, like Jesper's character going from this nuclear scientist to a gun-wielding, fist-fighting, double-agent, fooling action hero. But, what the heck?
Yeah. And for me, this is not a flashy movie.
No.
Now, it did introduce me to the stunning Marjorie Hoschel, which was nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know her before.
Yeah.
She was in Make Your Bed, Blonde for a Day, Find the Blackmailer, and she's here in Cloak and Dagger, and I'm a fan. I didn't know her. And this movie does continue on the regular guy becomes a spy theme we saw a lot of in the 1930s through the 50s because of Hitchcock. So this is more of a somber movie without the quips and the breaks we get in James Bond. But I think this is what spy movies look like before they became fantasy.
Yeah, me too. All right, join us on Facebook for a discussion of this movie and this episode. Let us know, what do you prefer, grounded spy stories or the big spectacle? Or both? All right, that's a wrap. This has been Dan.
And Tom.
And it's time to hang up our cloak and put away our dagger. Until next time, we'll keep cracking the code of spy movies. Please join us as covert field operatives and keep listening and discussing. And in espionage, trust no one except us.
Thanks for listening.